What to do: watch the video. Then after, complete the form attached in the description box. And wait for an email confirmation from compliance@uh4c.org.
Okay, hi guys. We're probably just going to get started as people can sit back down. So I'm Haley Lyles, used to be Haley Argo. You've been here a long time. But I'm a supervisor here, and this is Lexi Fowler. She was a supervisor here until yesterday, but she's going to work another really cool job, if you want to say where you're going.
This is not going to work. Okay. Yesterday was technically my last day. I came here for this, so I'll be moving to another agency in Athens called Nightlight and be doing some adoption work. So I'm really excited to be here and finish today with y'all. So we're going to talk about partnership parenting, and Haley's going to kick us off.
Yeah, so we, if you know me, you know this is like my MO. I really love partnership parenting. I think it's the cornerstone of what foster care is. And so this has really just been, as an agency, something we've been working on since we opened. Just a continuum of how to do this in a way that looks like Jesus. Understanding that partnering with families in foster who have kids in foster care is just hard. We're from a lot of different places. There's a lot going on, and something's obviously wrong where their kids wouldn't be in care. So we've just been really working to navigate and find, and as an agency, how do we feel about partnering with families? How do we practically work with our families to do that well in a million different situations, because there's no one way, and we totally recognize that. And so I think just really the last year specifically, since Town Hall, we've been just working with our case managers who are amazing and see a million different cases of all their kids, and working with y'all to just come up with, how does God feel about this? How do we as an agency feel about this? So what's our best practice? And then just really, we try to be super practical. I'm so like flighty and like hippie minded that I'm just like, this is how it should be. But I work with a lot of really cool people who are logistically minded, so that's also really great, so they keep me grounded. So there's two sides of that to this training. So I think our hope for this training is that we really just meet you where you are as foster parents doing this every day, and just we know that this is hard. So I don't want you to think we're sitting here saying just partner. That's really dumb, and we recognize that. Like that's not the answer. So we know this is really hard, and we're here with you. We really want to break down a lot of the barriers and the stigma of working with bio families. Something really cool about our agency this year, even specifically, is we started working a pilot with the state. So the state's undergoing a huge turnaround and opening up. Pretty much half of kids in foster care are placed with relatives, which is amazing. But the problem with that is that a lot of these relative families aren't getting the subsidy that y'all do. They're not getting services for their kids. They're not getting caps. And y'all know all that stuff matters. It is really, really expensive to raise kids. And so a lot of these families have been doing it without any kind of support. So the state, we've joined the pilot, we've opened up a lot of relative homes this year as our foster families, which is so super fun. They're approved exactly like y'all are. So really just we really want to break down these barriers too, because now we're all working together even more tangibly than we have been. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We really want to communicate with y'all. We've come up with some pretty concrete agency standards on how we partner, how we don't talk to people, honestly, how the right way and the wrong way to do that amidst a lot of different situations, and then just give you really practical tools to walk through each situation. But also the blessing is all of you have really incredible case managers that can work through specific issues with you, but we're going to speak a little bit more broadly. So Lexi's going to kind of walk through what we've decided within our mission and vision, like how we feel we're going to present this to you guys.
So if you were at our town hall this past year, you know we really revamped our mission and vision, and so we really wanted to kind of change that to fit where we're going. And One of those things was we changed to develop relationships to seek restoration and reconciliation by living out the grace and love of Christ. And we really believe that as part of our big mission and vision is that we want to see restoration and reconciliation. And we believe that comes through partnering and through our foster parents getting to show the love of Christ to biological families. We believe that we're called to live a life that honors Christ and exemplifies the grace that he shows us, and showing that to everyone we work with within the system, whether that's biological families, DFACS workers, transporters, whoever. We know that Christ's love and grace for us is not dependent on how good we are or if we're showing an interest in him or not, but that it's just continuous. We don't have to earn it, but every day there's new grace for us. So if we're going to really exemplify that to our families, what does it look like to show new grace and new mercies to biological families every day, even when we don't feel like they've earned it or deserve it or show an interest in it? And we know that's not easy. It sounds really beautiful, but it takes a lot of really hard, tangible work to get there. But we just really want to start asking, God, how do you feel about the families and the people that we're working with? What do you see when you look at them? Because it's not what we see. Often we see really broken and hurting people, and we're frustrated and angry. But he still sees the kids that he loves, and he sees their potential and what he created them to be. So we're really working inside the agency to ask that question. How do you see these people? And God, can you give us eyes that loves them and sees them like you do? And we just believe that there's not a statute of limitation to the grace that we offer parents and relatives. Some cases drag on for several years. Some of you have been doing this 2, 3, 4 years with the same exact kids and the same exact bio families. And it's hard, and you get worn out, and things happen over and over again. But we really believe that there's not an end date to when grace and mercy run out. It might look, how that plays out may look different over the years, but we still believe that even when you reach a termination or you reach reunification, that there's still so much space to show grace and to love those parents really well. Because you might be the only person they ever encounter who loves Christ and is showing them what Christ looks like. And so we just believe, if we're here because we love Christ and we feel like this is our mission, then that should really change the way that we do this. It should structure the way that we do this. We should look different than other agencies, other foster parents, because our first mission is to show Christ to our families. And we know that really the only way we're going to see real heart change is if they come to know him and to feel that experience. So that's just kind of where the root of all of our heart comes for this, is that we believe, Christ shows us grace even when we don't deserve it, which is every day. So how do we mirror that to the people that we're working with?
Something new that's kind of, my perspective has not shifted, just kind of aligned even more. Some of y'all probably know this, but my husband and I became foster parents this year. We have 2 little girls. They're really crazy and really fun. But what's super cool is when we kind of walked through the journey of becoming foster parents, I really just asked God, God, if I'm wrong about partnership parenting, now will be the time and I'll know, because I'll tangibly be doing it too, not just on the case management side. And so that was a little bit of a fear, honestly, that I had. What if I have been wrong? What if I've been telling people to partner and that's not right? Or what if I've been thinking about this wrong? And I think, just super honestly, I feel more strongly about it now, but on a different side. I think I can concretely look at you and say, it's so hard because we're so selfish as people. And I think that's something I've recognized in myself. It is not super easy to say, even if mom stops responding to you, reach out to her. But I love God and I believe that he loves her, so I'm going to. It's a lot of, you just decide, we ask God how he feels about it, and then you don't waffle because you're tired. I think that's just where the Lord is kind of really aligned. When I said, okay, God, am I wrong? He said, no, you're not wrong, it's just harder. And that's okay. And so, in my personal case, I'm not going to share any details about my kids, but we have to work with a lot of family members. Our girls came to us with a really young mom who is super great, but she's really young. If my 19-year-old self would have absolutely lost children, that's pretty not pretty wild at that age too. So, in all honesty. So I would have been in a similar situation, but I have family support, so that is what changed it for her. But we have a couple aunts and family members that we work with. So I'm coming to you, I guess, just letting y'all know that, saying I totally get that there's sometimes you're going to have cases where there's a lot of people to communicate with, a lot of people to partner with. And so I'll share some of my practical tools and just working through my own selfishness, like what has worked for me also. So what's been kind of cool is this experience has also kind of helped us navigate, like as a team, what is the role of you as a foster parent and what is the role of you as a case manager and our case managers in the department. Because I personally have had to really change my focus in working with my own my kids' bio mom. I'm not a case manager, so that looks really different to be a foster mom, to partner with her. So what does that look like? So we've come up with some really just clear lines to try to walk with y'all in of what does this look like for you? How do you partner as a foster parent? What is your role? What is your role with bio parents? And then what is our role as case managers working with DFACs parents? It's very different. And so step one is understanding you're not just going to be working with parents, you're probably going to be working with their neighbor and their teacher and their grandma that's maybe not the grandma who they call like Pap or something, like who's Pap, I don't know, Dewey, who's Dewey, you know, your kids say a million names, like are these family or not? But there's a lot of people you could be working with. But we understand first and foremost, and working with biological parents, that we are the privileged population as foster parents. We really have to settle that in our soul, and we believe that really strongly as an agency. You're approved as foster parents because life has gone right for you. Not in every single way, but you have the bandwidth to say, yes, we can do this because we feel called to it. So we just really honestly want to recognize that we're the privileged population and what we're working in. And what's really cool is we have the opportunity to leverage that privilege if we can recognize it at all times. We cannot pretend that we're the victims because we're not. And we just have to rest in that. There's a lot of heart in it, but I think that when we sit back and take a step back and realize, okay, we chose to do this, or we feel called to do this even when it's really hard, how do we leverage that calling for our parents too, and not just their kids?
Yeah, so we think that's part of your role. And then another big piece, which we hope this maybe feels like freedom, is that, you know, as a foster parent, you don't have to be the authority figure in the case. Obviously, in your home with your foster child, you have authority. But with the bio parent and the family, really what we hope your role can be is teacher and encourager and mentor. So it's not your job to tell them they have to go do something, because that's our job in DFACs. But instead, you get the opportunity to leverage that privilege and encourage them, and to say, I mean, it'd be really, like, you should go to rehab because that's what you're going to need in order to get your kids back, and to encourage and to help them process maybe why that's important, whereas a caseworker might just say, you have to do steps 1 through 3 and end of the story. And we think, like, y'all are really great parents. You wouldn't be approved foster parents if we didn't think that you could do this really well, and that you weren't already doing it well in your home. And you have a lot to give, and we really believe that in order to see your kids thrive, their parents also have to thrive. And we know not every situation ends in reunification. Sometimes it looks different, but even then, we really believe partnering goes beyond TPR. It goes through adoption, and it looks different in every case. But we just believe that your role is really getting to be a support and an encouragement to your biological families, and that will look different. We're going to go through some practical tips at the end of how you could do that. But we hope that it could feel like freedom for you, that you don't have to be the one to report things all the time, or you don't have to be the one to force things to happen, but you get to be the one who just gets to love on them. caseworkers don't always get the opportunity to build a strong, deep relationship with biological families. Especially your DFACS workers, they're dealing with hundreds of family members between all of their cases. So they don't have time to sit and talk through like, oh, what does it look like to go to parenting classes, and why is it important not to spank your child? Like, our bio parents might not really understand why they're just told they can't do it, but you get the opportunity to say, no, here's what discipline is working, and this is why I see it working. This is what I have learned about your kid, and I think you'll see these things too, and to really start a dialogue with them. So we hope that you can really start to step into that role of mentor, because we know most of you had mentors in your life, whether it was your own parents or a coach or a teacher. You had someone who helped shape you, who brought you to where you're sitting at today. You had someone who helped teach you how to be a good parent. And so that's what a lot of our families are lacking. And we really want to encourage y'all that you have the capacity to do that with your families. And we want to help you figure out how to do that well. But we get to be such an example to them, and just get to really love them well and be that person and show them that they can do it. They might not have anyone else in their life saying, you can do this. Maybe there's days you don't believe that, but you can still encourage them and tell them you believe that, because that's what they need to hear. They need to hear that someone is cheering for them, and you can do it.
So I think just our first practical tool for your role as foster parents, partnering with biological parents, is just start at ground zero. I think sometimes we do this in our minds accidentally, where we'll have a lot of our seasoned foster parents too, your kids will come into care because of physical abuse or neglect, or just because they lost housing or they got incarcerated. But I think we put stigmas with different reasons kids come into care. So we'll be like, oh, I bet that they can do this, so we'll start at level 10 with them. They can, I bet they're good communicators, and then when they don't communicate, or when they're MIA, or when they're still using, we're super frustrated. But I think just a practical tool that even our case managers, we were talking about this earlier, just how to start. Step one with parents is start at zero. Let's just assume that everything is wrong. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to say, you know what, they're probably not going to be good communicators right off the bat. They might keep using for a while into this case, because you don't automatically stop the problem when your kids are taken from you. That's not a reality. So step one is just start from ground zero. And I think two is understanding that you're not the authority now. And I think how we kind of like to think about it is we have a lot of really cool foster parents that we've gotten to watch do this so well, but no one has started out getting to be this really cool voice in their parents' lives immediately. That's partnership parenting 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. That's when you've built years of rapport with these parents. They're not going to trust you. They're probably going to trust the people raising their kids least. So you have to understand, just because to us, we're like, oh, this is absolutely a safe placement, of course you should trust them. They're going to trust you the least. And so you have to start from the ground up with them. So start at zero, expect them to have everything wrong, and you can be pleasantly surprised when things are going well right off the bat, so that's super cool. And then just understand that because you're not the authority, there is freedom in that to just get to know them. So really just that gives you a little weight off of you, hopefully, to be able to trust. And I'll talk through the agency role in the beginning and as the case goes on, but you get to build a framework. You don't automatically, we don't do arranged marriages often these days, but it's kind of like an arranged marriage with the biological parents that we partner with. You're not going to automatically have an arranged marriage, never meet the person, get married, and instantly trust them, and your relationship's going to be great. That's what's being asked of you as foster parents and biological parents working to raise the same children. You're not going to trust them. They're not going to trust you. So you have to just work to get to know each other without getting to be an authority in each other's lives yet, and that's okay. So I think that's just initially what we're asking of you as foster parents, is just be a consistent face, a consistent friend, a consistent encourager, until you build the rapport with them to be able to say, a year from now, 6 months down the road, I wonder if you're having a hard time not using because you're still hanging out with the same friends. or you're still living in the same house, like, then you have the space to say, I know you, I know who your friends are, I know who you date, I know your extended family. Man, that's kind of a hard part of town you live in. Maybe that could be part of the problem, but you can only have those conversations when you know them and you can speak into parts of their life. So practically, that's kind of a starting point for you guys. As an agency, we really have kind of honed, I think, pretty well, and we're continuing to hone our case managers having an authority in our parents' lives. So as a private agency, practically, you know, the first whirlwind of 72 hours, you get your placement, you're probably going to have a court hearing. We might not know what's happening, we might know what's happening. But pretty quickly, we'll probably have a hearing. As an agency, how we introduce ourselves to parents is, hey, we are your CPA case managers, which means we approve the home that your kids were placed in. So we're going to work with the foster parents that are raising your kids and you to make sure that y'all can work together to make sure we can do this together. So there's a couple sides to it. So we can automatically be that place for them to say, we're watching the people raising your kids. They need to know that. And we totally trust y'all, but that also is our job to make sure that you're helping raise these kids well. And we tell biological parents that. We're working with them to make sure that they're doing everything right, and we're going to encourage you to make sure that you're working your side of this plan as well.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned over the 4 years here, I've had bio parents tell me, like, oh, when I was in care, my foster parent beat me, or they've heard the horror stories of their friends who grew up in care. And so whether or not you're a good person, they assume that's the kind of foster parent you are, because that's been their experience with foster care. So we're really trying to meet them on day one and say, like, no, your foster parents that are caring for your kids, they're different. We feel really confident that, you know, that they are good people, that they aren't going to hurt your kids, that this is a good situation. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do, is just build that rapport and that trust and reassure them. I mean, even if you feel like on day one that they should be more concerned than they are, they probably are, even if they aren't showing it. If it looks like anger, if it looks like avoidance, these parents do love their kids, and they are scared and they're unsure. They often feel way out of control. So we're really hoping that we can help settle some of that fear for them, to start building our place in their case and let them know what our role is, and just to reassure them that y'all are good foster parents, and that we often really talk y'all up and say that you're going to be great partners, that you want them to succeed, and so we want you guys to follow through on that, because that's what we're promising. We really want to support y'all to support them. But practically what it looks like is, at the time of placement, when Haley is getting a placement call and making that placement, we are immediately following up with contacts and saying, hey, what's mom's phone number? What are their names? Where are they at? Are there other siblings in care we don't know about? Because often that's the case. You know, who else is involved? And we are trying really hard to get that information so that right off the bat, someone's making contact with that parent and saying, like, we know you're scared because your kids just got picked up from school and you had no idea what was happening, but we can at least tell you, like, they're sleeping somewhere safe tonight. And we're working with DFACs. That's like a big thing in this region, to really start pushing that, because not all DFACs workers know that that's something that's important. They're just focused on getting that kid to a safe place, and they don't really think twice about getting you, the biological parents' information. So practically, you can count on us to start asking for that and to really do everything we can to get it. If we can't get it at placement, we're going to ask for it at court. So that's just part of what our role looks like on day one, is trying to make those connections for you.
Something practically, as I had a lot of fear in getting our first placement, the first thing that I really loved DFACs about was I was going to pick up the girls from the DFACs office, and I just bombarded the case manager all day until I found mom's number. And because I really asked God, I really want to talk to mom before I even meet the girls. That really mattered to me, and it doesn't work that well in every case. I think the Lord was really sweet to me, and I got to do that. But I got to call her and say, hey, I'm your new foster parent up for your girls, and I wanted to talk to you before I see them, because I want to love you as much as I know I'm going to love them. And I've tried to be really honest and use really honest language with her, and saying, like, I mean, they're really cute. The girls are really cute, and they're really easy to love, and they're really fun. But I wanted to feel the same way about their mom as I did about them. And for me, that practical step of saying, like, tell me some things about you, and then tell me some things about your girls, because I want you to be the authority on them first and not me. You know, I want you to be able to tell me things about them, and I'll tell you new things about them. But practically for me, and that's like what Lexi was saying, what we're working as an agency is as equally as important as it is in the whirlwind of placing kids, making sure you're going to CHOA to get your training for them, or you're getting all your bunk beds together because you've got triplets, and you know, all the practical things that go into making a I'm bringing you triplets. But all the practical things that go into making a placement about the kids, it's also about their parents, because while all this is going on with our kids and with our foster families, everyone's nervous to meet each other. Meanwhile, parents have had their kids taken and they're just like, see you later. Everyone says, see you at court. They're alone. There's a lot of time for Satan to get in there and just build up walls against people. And we are really working with the department, specifically in Region 5, starting, which is like Walton, Newton, Rockdale, the region that we're in, to really just stress the importance of, no, yeah, I need the kid's name and birthday and mom and dad's number. Like, that's what we need right now from y'all, so that we can reach out, whether it's your case manager reaching out, whether it's me doing intake, or whether it's you as a foster parent. Someone is reaching out within that first 24 to 72 hours to say, hey, this is who we are, your kids are okay, tell us their favorite food, tell us about them, and like, we cannot wait to meet you at court. Something we practically have totally seen work almost every time is that when we talk to our parents before court, if we can get their contact information and meet them and just build a little rapport, when we see them at court for that first court hearing, which is pretty much always awful because it's hearing why their kids came in care, y'all can immediately be friends and not enemies. You can be partners and not enemies. Almost every time. When we're able to get that information, we're able to reach out and kind of calm the waters, it's way less awkward. Because it is awkward. It is super awkward to walk into court for the first time and be like, hello, I'm the one with your kid. Or you walk in holding your child, and that's really hard for them to see. Just really, honestly, that's so awkward and hard. Y'all would probably be psychopaths. Like, I know you're all psychopaths. You would all be crazy people if someone walked into court carrying your children. Like, you just have to recognize that in yourself and just say it, like, I'd be crazy. So if we can get that initial contact before a heightened hearing, that's really best practice, and that's what we're really working towards. If that doesn't happen and we can't get information the first time we do meet them as a court, we're really, really working with our case managers who are just really good at this. And we really, as young 20-year-olds, you know, we're so wise with no children, but we are really, you know, we are, whatever, entry-level job here. But we're really working to work with the state and work with each other and work with people who have experience to be able to be a comfort and an assurance and with you when you meet parents to go say, hey, like, we're gonna mediate for you. Like, this is awkward, but we're so excited y'all get to work with each other. Like, I don't know if y'all, Jess Mears might be some of y'all's case manager. She is like a sunshine psychopath. She's like totally crazy and super fun. And she will literally, at court, be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry our kids came in here, but this is going to be so fun that we get to do this together. Like, she's crazy. She's a crazy person. But it's super cool that all of our case managers separately have a skill like that to really just say, this is awkward, this is hard, we're so sorry. You might be a little aggressive right now, like, put down the knife, both of you separately. And like, we're going to do this. We don't have a choice. Like, that's what we're recognizing here, is there's no choice not to partner. It's going to look different every time. But our case managers are so skilled, and we want y'all to be so skilled, and your mediation skills to say, this does suck, but we're going to do it. Just honestly. We're not going to pretend that it's going to be fun, because it's not going to be fun, and people are going to be frustrated because we're humans that are selfish. That's just life. So, as an agency, with the department and partnering with your biological parents, we get a pretty cool opportunity to be like good cop, bad cop. We have to be the good cop most of the time because we're not making the case plan. So I worked at Uniting Hope since like 2015, June 2015, so I've literally grown up here. I literally was telling someone earlier, I like got a time hop from like 4 years ago, and I look really haggard now, and as opposed to then. I was like, I've aged badly because of this job. So that's really cool. So I can't wait to see the next 5 years. But when I started in 2015, I got a case of kid number 1 with mom that we now have kid number 4 with mom. So we've worked a long way. This mom and I are really tight. We're really cool. But we're the same age, so that's really fun. But in this case, we've gotten to see pretty practically how it can work with how we partner with parents. You know, social work kind of lends itself to really young workers until they burn out, and then, you know, foster care kind of works like that. So mom and I and the DFACS worker, we're all the same age. So we're all like, sorry, this is really hard. Let's all try to do this together. So in this case specifically, over the past 4 years, it's been a picture of, I've gotten to be the role with mom of, you know, that, hey, I'm working with your foster parents to work with you, to be your encouragement. Let's walk through your case plan. Let's do this. The DFACS worker has gotten to be able to say, I'm the authority. You haven't done this, this, and this. You need to do this, this, and this. What it's turned into is this really weird relationship of just the DFACS case manager and I going to find mom in the woods and going to see her at jail and being able as a team to evolve with the foster mom now to all be in one big group text that one person's like, girl, you haven't done this, which is DFACS. And I'm like, we can totally do this. Let's find time to sit down and eat McDonald's and talk about your case plan. And then like foster moms like sending pictures and saying, oh, here, come to this, and this doctor's appointment. But it can evolve to a point where you've built so much rapport with each other and your really specific roles that there's a support system with every needed side. There's a major authority, there's an authority of encouragement, and there's a partnership parent, foster parent that's willing to say, you're doing a great job, you know, you guys are doing their job. Here's the things you need to work on because I know you. But like, here's your kids, and I'm going to help you keep knowing your kids. And so that's like a really cool, tangible picture we have within our agency. And we have a lot of families like that do that really well. But that's our goal, is to be able to meet all sides to where you as foster parents don't have to feel like you have to be the authority and the good cop and the bad cop. You don't have to, because there's a lot of people working our cases that do really good jobs. And I think we have a lot of cases where we kind of have some MIA case managers with DFACS. We don't know what they look like, we don't know what they sound like. We don't know what their name is, we don't know if our kids actually in care anymore. You know, like, that's a reality. It happens sometimes, but we're here to be the authority and step in and navigate that for you. So I'm not saying it's always going to be sunshine and butterflies, because it's not. But so practically, that's like our ideal for you guys, is to eventually become cool authorities in your parents' lives. Don't start there, and we're going to work on that with you. We're going to start at Partnership 101. We're going to work to Partnership 15.0, because that's how long your kids are going to be in here. I'm just kidding. I'm not really kidding. So, I know your cases, y'all have kids for a long time. So, practical stuff is really what we want to work through. Is we decided as an agency, as we said, best practice, we want you to have contact with your biological parents when you get a placement within 24 to 72 hours. That's super scary. That's so scary. We haven't really been hard and fast about that in the past. We're going to be, because we've seen it work really well. We believe God is who He says He is. We believe we're sitting in a place of privilege, and it's our job to leverage it. So that's just where we are. But we're going to do it with you. You don't have to do it alone. Brandy and Brittany aren't going to say, here's their number, hit them up, here's their address, go see them. We're going to do it with you. So 24 to 72 hours, or at least when we get their number, which may be 2 weeks after placement. Who knows? But we're gonna do this. We're gonna work with it as we get it. So something we really wanted to highlight is understanding that we have to be really aware of like cultural competency as we're working with our biological parents. One, understanding we're like really a solid middle class group of people in this room. But we just really want to be aware of understanding that our biological parents come from a lot of different places. They might look, their kids, them and their kids, they might look like we do financially. They might not. Most likely they do not. And so there's a lot that comes with that in terms of communication. So we're going to be reaching out, we're going to be trying to communicate, but just understanding, just coming from a place of understanding that our privilege looks different. Most of us work 9 to 5 jobs. I personally don't work a 9 to 5 job. Most of y'all probably don't. But we work normal scheduled jobs. Most of us have spouses. Most of us have support systems. We have a consistent, we know what we're getting a paycheck every month. You know, we're not in our spare time binging cocaine. Some of you might be, and we'll deal with that later. But our parents are not coming from similar places. That's really just my point in all of my tangent, is we have to understand they're working with a non-consistent phone even. Things like that we have to be aware of. They have a phone number that changes every 2 days. That's super confusing. I still haven't found the root of that, like why someone's number changes so much. I don't know. I don't even know how to do that. They don't work a 9 to 5 job, so their schedules might be overnight and they might not be awake during the day. And just, we have to understand practical step, understand that their lives don't look like we do. So we're not going to be frustrated when they don't call at 6 p.m. every day like they told us to, just like throw it out the window. They're not going to, and we're just, so step one. And just like that's our general overview as we try to approach all the things that we're going to ask you to do. So we talked with our case managers through practical steps of what are ways to contact foster parents or biological parents that are like scary. This is the list from really scary to not as scary. So I'm going to let you start with this list.
Great. I mean,
Step one, show up at their house.
yeah. Definitely the most scary. We don't recommend showing up on their doorstep on day one, unless Haley would probably do something like that. But, you know, obviously phone calls are like maybe feel the scariest because you have to talk to them and you have no idea what you're going to get on the other side of the phone. But at the same time, it's, you know, you can always hang up. If it gets aggressive, if something happens, there's always that option. They're not there in front of you, but phone calls, text messages, Google Voice. I think that's the thing we hear most from foster parents that y'all love is Google Voice because you don't give out your personal phone number on day one. I will say, as y'all all know, all of our case managers and staff, we give out our personal phone numbers to anyone and everyone we have ever met because we don't have work phones. And so I have bio parents that I've worked with for years who still have my phone number. And I mean, there's parents who, like, I still have random people call me sometimes. I'm like, I haven't been on your case in a really long time. But I say that to say, none of us have ever had a situation in which giving away our phone number has ended poorly. So we do encourage you, if Google Voice is not something that you can figure out or you can figure out, we have not had many problems with giving away your phone number because you can block people if you need to. We can help you set those boundaries. But phone calls, Google Voice, emails, but all of those, like Haley said, is just keeping in mind, you know, what kind of situation are your biological families coming from? Do they have a phone that has web on it? Can they get to their email? They might not check their email but once every couple of weeks, even though they somehow post to Facebook. We know. We don't understand how that happens, but they can somehow post to Facebook and not answer your email. It's okay. And I mean, we've had foster parents who make second Facebook accounts because Facebook Messenger is the best way to communicate with their bio parents. Get creative. Letters and journaling at visits, we know a lot of y'all do that. You make notebooks and you pass back and forth different notes to visits. That's a great first step. You know, we're going to do our best to get you that contact info within the first 72 hours. It may not always happen. We realize we are talking about a lot of dream realities here. So immediately on the first visit, or if you can't be at court because you're working and you can't take time off, write a letter, send a note, start a journal. That's a really easy way that doesn't involve technology for you to start communicating. You can add pictures to it. drawings the kids make. It's just a really tangible way that can go back and forth with visits for you guys to start communicating. And then as you go on, you get to know them better. It might look like birthdays and holidays and having joint birthday parties or going out for a giant Christmas dinner all together. It's going to look different with every case and over the course of the case, but a lot of times we see those things also don't end well, or don't end poorly. They end well, and we're like excited to see, oh, wow, there's so much more family that showed up to this Christmas dinner that we didn't even know existed. And it's going to be awkward. We know you're going to meet 25 people you've never seen before, and they all want to hold your kid who is screaming and crying because they're like, who in the world are all these strangers? But your bio parents will feel so loved and included because you've thought of them. And your kid ultimately will benefit from those interactions. And then just sending pictures, sending updates, including your bio parents on the big things. Do they have a school meeting coming up? Do they have a well check? Sometimes your bio parents live over an hour away from you and they just can't make it to doctor's appointments. They might not have reliable transportation, or they are working, or they're going to their rehab classes all day long and it's just not possible. But then we just ask you, send them an update after their well check, even if they don't ask for it. We know we want them to text you right away and be like, how much did they weigh today? Most of them aren't going to think about that. Or they don't feel permission to ask you for it because you hold so much power. And so take that first step. Just start giving them a little bit of information. And maybe you say, the well check went really well today. And then let them lead on the rest of the questions. But we have a lot of really young parents who don't know what even happens at a well check. I mean, like Haley said, most of our staff don't have kids, and so most of us can't tell you what you do at a well check. We're like, I don't know, they're healthy, great. So I wouldn't know what questions to ask. So start modeling those things, but include them on well checks and dental visits and school visits.
The word Lexi just used, modeling it, that's really a good picture of your role and how to maintain consistency, because it is your job to model what a parent looks like, because obviously we think you do it well or you wouldn't be foster parents with us. That's your job. So anything that you think would model good parenting, do with them. For you, that really, what we're asking of you, that means consistency. So when my husband and I first got the girls, mom was super communicative for a month. We had that great honeymoon period. Then she pretty much dropped off for a couple months. And the knee jerk Satan's gonna bring into your mind is well, she doesn't want to know, she doesn't get to know. You know what I'm saying? Satan's gonna do that to you. But I think the Lord really spoke to my husband and I to be no, we're gonna keep sending her updates and pictures even if she doesn't respond. We're gonna be as consistent at day 1 as we are at day 300, because that's what God has called us to do. We have the capacity to do this, and we want to model how we would like her to love them. And that's what we're asking of y'all, is to just be that model. So if they're not asking for well checks, you're sending updates. If they're not answering your emails, send another one every Monday. That's what this requires of you. We're not promising, we can never promise what the response to partnering will be. We can only tell you what we're asking of you and what we think we're called to do. And so just super practically, you're the model. You really are. And I think something that often happens with our riot families, and this happened with one of our girls, is they'll forget a birthday. The kid's birthday will go by, we'll celebrate it, and they will never ask about it, ask how their birthday went, see if they wanted a gift. When we're frustrated and angry about that, I think sometimes we're frustrated and angry for ourselves, because we're in this situation, I was the better parent, that should be the case, this is their kid, they should remember their birthday. But that's not our job to be frustrated at that. We don't know what's going on in their head. And so just being consistent on our end, if it is a situation where you can include them in saying hey, let's have a birthday party at the park, and you bring it up instead of them, okay. If it's you just sending pictures from their birthday saying, hey, do you want me to tell them happy birthday for you? Cool. But we're just asking you over and over again to extend yourselves, because just really spiritually, like God does that to us. Every single day. I bet if the Lord worked like this, he would have moments where he's like, you didn't even ask me how my day was. Like, you didn't even ask me how I felt about this, or you didn't talk to me about this. Like, God, there's so many moments in our days where the God has to say, oh, reminder, I'm here. Oh, reminder to talk to me. We're going to do that to our parents. We're just going to remind them to love their kids, because that's their job. And we're going to show them, you know what, loving your kids means caring about their well check, so we're going to send this to you. Loving your kids looks like coming to therapy, so we're going to tell you what therapy is. Loving your kids looks like letting them know that they're having a really hard time with aggression, and this is not what they're doing well in at school, because they need to know the issues as well as the good things so that they can work through them with you. So that's just the modeling is really what we want to present to you guys. So we want to talk through some potential barriers and kind of how to work through them. So barriers that we know are a reality are boundaries. Like, you might have parents that are going to call you every single morning at 6:02 a.m. and like expect you to call and then be frustrated or answer and be frustrated. You can go ahead and set hard and fast boundaries. That's okay, and then expand on them. Instead of saying, you know what, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, while I'm picking them up from daycare at 5:30, totally call, and you can have that time to talk to them. You know, you can set what that looks like. You can say, every Saturday I'll email you a weekly update. Does that work for you? You can set hard boundaries that are doable for you. You know you can do it. If you make a promise, keep it. And then just keep doing it. Even if they don't respond, even if they don't call during that period, it's not your job to get them in trouble because you made the boundary. So that's kind of something practically what you can do.
Yeah, so we do know that our vision for partnership parenting isn't always achievable. There's a lot of stuff that comes up practically. Some of your parents are incarcerated. Sometimes for album day 1, sometimes later in the case, sometimes for 5 days at a time, or 6 months at a time, or the whole case. So we know that that's a huge barrier to communication. So there are things you can continue to do. I mean, we have had foster parents go to the jail to visit their biological parents. So if that's a situation you're in, talk to your case manager. There might be a way. But you can also send letters, bring stuff to court that then maybe the bailiff can give to the biological parent. I mean, I've had foster parents who just ask, like, hey, before court, can I have like 5 minutes to talk to that mom? Sometimes the bailiffs agree, sometimes they don't. It doesn't hurt to ask. But there's things you can do, but we know incarceration is a huge barrier. So even inside your home, what that can look like is making sure you're still talking to your kids about their parents. Like, we know you don't get to see them right now, and that's really disappointing. But have conversations, bring them up as your kids bring them up. Have a picture in your house of them. You know, follow the lead of what's right for your kid, but don't pretend like, oh, they're in jail, so they don't exist anymore, see ya. They still exist, they're still a part of the case in some way, so there's ways that we can work with you to partner. And the big one that I think everyone has the hardest time with is just aggression. Some of our parents are just really angry, they're processing a lot of things, they're going through withdrawal, and so they just have a lot of aggression and anger, and maybe just in general their language looks different than what you use on a daily basis. So there, again, it's just being consistent. I think if you show up and you are consistent with them, it doesn't mean that that's going to go away, but it might lessen. And that also leads into having boundaries. You don't have to stay on a 45-minute phone call where the bio parent is yelling at you all the time. Have boundaries, have respect, but know that that's a part of it, but there's still ways. Maybe it looks like letters in that journal to visits, and maybe it's not phone calls right away. And the biggest one too, we know behaviors after visits is a big deal. So just be prepared. Your kids will have behaviors before, after, during. They're gonna process what they're feeling. They're gonna process seeing their parent coming back home again. It's a lot of big things. So prepare your heart. They will have behaviors, and that doesn't mean that their parents are bad or that visits are bad, but that's just their way of dealing with it. But maybe go ahead and put some structures into place, like what are you gonna do after a visit to prepare for that and to feel okay in your home, and how are you going to communicate with your bio parent? Like, here's what I'm seeing. What can we do? We know there's a lot of other barriers as well, but those are just some of the practical ones that we thought of.
Yeah, so this is just something we're going to be working with y'all in, and what's super cool is y'all have been, a lot of y'all have been parents before as you enter foster care, but some of you haven't. But the reality is, if you're a foster parent, you haven't been a foster parent before you get your first placement, and so it's a whole different ballgame than raising your own kids. It is. It's completely different, and it's really hard parenting with another adult has like equally selfish intentions and habits like we do, just as humans. And so we have really cool case managers that are here that are trained to walk through what this looks like with you, trained to walk through aggression, trained to walk through addictive personalities with you, because that looks differently. But we just really believe that God is kind to us and extends himself to us, and we believe that's our job as well. And so we're going to do this with you. We're expecting a lot of our foster parents in terms of partnering, but we're not going to leave you alone in it. And we know that God is calling us to this, so we just believe in it. So we're really thankful for what you guys do. And we just want to make this side of foster care equally as comfortable as caring for your kids, because we really think that can happen. So we're really thankful for you guys. Y'all are almost done, but Kayla's going to talk to y'all first.
You completed the training. Now, complete the form in the description box and wait for an email from compliance@uh4c.org.